What's up, Neverwinter? I had a request from a viewer to do a video on my Bards build. So I think the Bard is a pretty straightforward build. A lot of people get kind of put off by the Bard. They think it's a harder class to play. In my opinion, the only real difficult part about playing the Bard is learning the songs, having them memorized, and being able to play them from heart quickly. Um, and you get the benefit of having being able to pin the songs so that they show up down here, and you get a little cheat sheet of the buttons you need to press. Today we're going to be talking about the Healing Bard. I also have a DPS Bard, but I haven't really been playing it this mod. I was only really playing it last mod. And as far as DPS goes, I've been kind of more into playing some other characters. So we're going to start with the powers and feats, and then I'll kind of go over gear choices and companions and all of that. Um, so the powers and feats, it's really pretty straightforward with the Bard. I don't find that there's a whole lot of um, questions in the air as far as what to use when you're talking about the healing perspective of things anyway. So for at wills, I use Reprise and Phantasmal Concerto. Now, um, Reprise is going to be kind of your go-to at will. It's a small cone in front of you, and that's how you're going to be stacking up your Merilith set stacks. It's how you're going to be getting your Grace Ring effect on the enemy. It's a very quick at will. It's going to get the stacks up pretty quickly, as you can see here. And this is, even without high crit strike, my Bard stats are very low. It's going to be kind of controversial for some people that like to maximize their healing stats, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Your Phantasmal Concerto is a much slower at will. You can move around while you're doing it. It has a very big range. Um, the thing about, oh, these are the wrong guys. I shouldn't have spawned them in, my bad. The thing about Phantasmal Concerto with it being so slow, you're not going to be able to get the Merilith set to stack up very quickly. But here's the thing about it. Watch my action points. You get a lot of AP gain. In certain areas where there's a lot of mobs, you can fill up your daily in just a couple of at-wills. And the Bard at-wills are great, in my opinion. Dailies. They're some of the strongest dailies in the game, especially for the support that they give. So those are your at-wills, and those are kind of the two different applications for when you're going to use them. Arpeggio is also something to look at, but Arpeggio is kind of limited use. Heal target ally or self. It's pretty cheap. It doesn't cost a lot of performance, but you'll want to use it in conjunction with this class feature, and it'll be good for certain things that your group might be struggling with. Specifically the Bard struggling with, because the heals aren't quite as potent as the other classes. And that's kind of accentuated by the fact that you're also wearing debuff gear, and you're not getting anywhere near your stat caps. So Arpeggio with this class feature can help for certain things like the Axe Phase and Master Demon Web Pits, the end of the Gromp fight, Master Demon Web Pits, because when you're spamming your songs, you're going to run out of resources pretty quickly, but you can use this at will to heal everybody in your group for a much cheaper amount, so it'll help keep people alive better. when you're talking about encounters, there's really only three encounters that you should ever look at. That's flourish, delayed play, and baseline. Um, Lunge, dancing lights, and duet do damage. Um, Dancing lights does have the added effect of decreasing the damage that the target deals, but it's not something you should really be worried about on a healer. Serenade is going to restrict your single target heal to only healing the person that you have marked. Um, I mean, it's also going to. This is the Bard's version of the mark that you hear about with the other healers. I think this has no real use. It's not really worth putting on. So I just stick with flourish, delayed play, and baseline. So we're gonna get into these three different powers. Um, Flourish lasts 4 seconds when you activate it, and it's going to increase the healing of your encounter powers and songs. This was recently changed, so if you have your heal over time up, or if you activate it and then play um, Defender's Minuet or Sheltering Etude, they're going to heal for 30% more. As an added effect, I believe it's one of the feats, or it might just be built in. I think it's just built into Flourish. Yeah, activating any other encounter power or a song allows for an additional use of Flourish for 4 seconds. So that's when you get those little dotted lines around Flourish. You can hit it again, play another song. It'll let you hit it again, but it's got an individual cooldown that is different from the regular use of Flourish. Baseline is something you're only going to want to use when you're low on resources. If you do see periods of time where there's not much going on, you don't need to be at willing to keep your debuffs up, and you're able to get a baseline in, you can do that. It takes a long time. You can move around slowly while it's doing it. It doesn't restore a whole lot. Baseline itself will give you back 200 performance, and in the long time that it takes to use it, you'll probably gain back about another 200 performance, which, as you can see, Blaze Flamenco, this is your cheapest song, costs 100. Rejuvenating Carol costs 150. Defender's Minuet's 160. Sheltering Etude, the most expensive one, is 200. Your last encounter power is going to be delayed play. So the way this is going to work is when you activate it, you're allowed to store a song. So you play that song, it uses some resource, and it puts that song in that encounter power slot. You can press it, it'll play that song instantly, and it won't cost you any resources. Now, I run a feat, which is right here, Vamp. Whenever you play a song in combat, there's a 20% chance to gain the effect of Vamp. The Vamp effect is activating delayed play will not clear the stored song, and it'll last for 20 seconds. You'll have those dotted lines for 20 seconds. You do, I believe, need to be in combat to get the dotted lines on delayed play. So there we go. You just saw Vamp proc on my screen. Now there's the dotted lines. You can press it. Doesn't cost you any resources. And you can see that I still have that song there. If you die, that song will get cleared out, and you'll have to go through the process of activating it again, playing the song, and putting it there. There's really only two options for songs to put there, in my opinion, and that's Sheltering Etude, which is your group heal, or Defender's Minuet. Defender's Minuet is great, as a single target heal. It's strong, it heals for a lot. It's going to heal the person with the lowest hit points in the group. Even though my stats are low, they're nowhere near capped. It will always fully heal a DPS or a healer in the group. Let me hit this, take some damage. So that healed me for 800k. If I was in a group and I had the Raptor, it would heal for over a million. You're always going to be able to top off a DPS with that. A tank that has some incoming healing, unless they're really low, you're always going to be able to top them off with Defender's Minuet. So that's kind of one piece on why I find stacking healing stats to be unnecessary. When you're talking about stacking healing stats, you're only effectively increasing your heals um, by much smaller amounts as compared to a tank stacking their defensive stats so that they're not getting hit as hard by the boss and regular monsters, as well as DPS stacking their offensive stats so that they can deal as much damage. We're not talking about the same scales here. Certain things like, the group heal is a good example. Um, you see that healed for 238k right there, 350k on a crit. Um, when you're in combat and you got some procs going and you got your crit strike up, it's going to be critting a lot more. And you're talking about that group heal healing people for a third of their health. Um, if I had maxed out healing stats, that would probably heal for about 400k on a crit instead of 350k. In my opinion, not really worth bending over backwards just to get your group heal to heal for only 50k more. Um, because that is the primary, way that you're going to be actively healing the group. When people need heals, you're going to be hitting that most of the time. And the reason for that is Sheltering Etude operates a little bit differently as a group heal compared to some of the other healers. Now, the Paladin and the Warlock have a heal where they just press it, and as long as you're within range of the Paladin or the Warlock, they will get healed. The Cleric has that as well, but it's a heal over time, healing word. All of the Bard's heals operate like that, where as long as you're within range, you're going to hit it. They don't have anything like Revitalize on the Warlock or Bastion of Health on the Cleric. I forget the name of the one on the Paladin, but it's essentially where you're going to be using it and then picking a yellow area to use the heal. When you're looking at the different songs on the Bard, I'll just go from left to right. Blaze Flamenco is going to give everybody a damage boost. If you have the class feature on, they will also get a run speed increase. I'll get into those class features in a minute. There's really not too many different ways that you could run the class feature, so I leave Vamos Allah on all the time to permanently give people that movement speed increase. This one lasts 30 seconds. It's your cheapest song, so even though it lasts the longest, it is one that I will play and refresh long before it's falling off. And the reason why I do that is for the storyteller feat, which is a buff that you're going to give everybody. Rejuvenating Carol, 150 performance cost. This is your heal over time. This is like kind of your bread and butter. You want to make sure this stays up always. It lasts 30 seconds. See if we can get a number up here to see. It heals for 120k a tick. It's very frequent. I think it's like every 2 seconds. So you'll get, 15 heals for about 120k over that 30 seconds. Defender's Minuet is 2,000 magnitude, and it's going to instantly heal the nearby party member with the least hit points. Warding Carol is your cleanse. This is by far the best cleanse in the game. The Paladin gets a single target cleanse. The Warlock and the Cleric get a cleanse where they have to cleanse people that are in a certain area. This is 10 seconds of constant cleansing. I keep this in a quick play slot, and we'll talk about those quick play slots in a second, as well as pinned songs and just playing songs from memory. I'll be honest with you, I don't have this song memorized yet. If I had it pinned, I could look and play it pretty quickly by looking at the pinned song down there on my down by my play bar over there, whatever you want to call it. But I just play it. I just leave it on the quick play slot because it's just the easiest way to do it. Aurora Fantasia, you're not really ever going to use. This one is going to lock you out of your being able to play songs. So this is going to make it where when you attack, you can see my performance gauge draining there, and you're seeing all these little heals for 20k happening. They're healing the guys back there. Um, this is something that I don't really recommend using ever. It's not doesn't really have any use in any master content. You could use it if you wanted to be lazy in say random queues or lower content, baby dungeons, that type of thing. And you won't be able to press right bumper or tab if you're on PC to pull your guitar out. What instead will happen when you press right bumper is this. You'll do a finale that'll do damage. Since you're a healer, that's not something that you really want to be doing. So then getting into the last song, Sheltering Etude, this operates a little bit differently as a group heal. So when you read it, it says grant self and all nearby party members the effect of Sheltering Etude, restoring HP when their health falls below 50% or upon expiration. That upon expiration also counts if you refresh it. So you'll see here, I don't have the Sheltering Etude effect, right? So I'm going to play Sheltering Etude right here. I did not get healed, but I now have the Sheltering Etude buff for a minute, and it says when my health drops below 50% or this effect expires. So now if I play it again, it will expire the old effect, it'll give me a new effect, and I'll get that heal. Now, Sheltering Etude is expensive, but you want to make sure that you keep it active on other players at all times. Main things you want to remember is to keep up your Rejuvenating Carol, keep up your Blaze Flamenco to give people the damage increase, and make sure that people have that Sheltering Etude buff at all times. The cleanse does come into play mostly in certain dungeons to, you can cleanse off damage over time effects, you can cleanse partial paralysis off of people. Partial paralysis is only in a few pretty select dungeons. And that's pretty much it as far as the songs. You're not going to use these reprised carols at all, because that's going to be that's the gambler path. Storyteller is much better. So now when we're looking at class features, this is useless. You're not doing damage on the bard. Song word you shouldn't really have to worry about. It really comes down to Vamos Allah and Mystifying Strikes. So now the thing about Mystifying Strikes is you have to be at willing, or just you could play Blaze Flamenco to deal damage to the enemy and it'll count as well. So you'll mystify a target, which will deal damage over time. That's not the main effect. The main effect you're looking for is whenever another player strikes a target affected by your mystify, the effect ends immediately and the mystified target takes psychic damage for 400 magnitude. The player who triggered the effect is also healed, so this kind of help a little bit with the healing. Vamos Allah for the movement speed, Arpeggio Fortissimo for the group heals on that Arpeggio at will if you want it. Um, you don't need the damage bonus from this one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. The healing bonus, again, I don't really think that you need to bend over backwards to be healing as much as you possibly can. This is an action MMORPG. It is on other people to avoid taking damage as much as they can. Um, Play it back. That's going to affect Aurora Fantasia, and you should really be staying away from that song. Again, unless you're being lazy and lower content, you could use it. Starstruck, I mean, you could use, but it's personally, I think the Mystifying Strikes is better. It procs a lot more often, and it's also causing the DPS to do more damage, um, as the Bard is really all about making the group deal more damage and kill stuff quicker, as well as the tank taking less damage. So now when we're looking at the feats, again, in my opinion, there's not really much up for debate here. Um, the first one's kind of useless. It just affects your arpeggio at will. It's not something you're going to be using a whole lot. Um, but it is what it is. This is the one I chose. I think it's a little bit better than Crescendo. Um, so now the second feats you're looking at either Rhapsody at Arms or Art of War. I went with Rhapsody at Arms. Um, it's not really, you know, Art of War isn't going to be doing a whole lot for you because you're not using dancing lights. Um, Vamp, obviously, this is going to give you free plays on your Sheltering Etude. Very good. It's much better than Sudden Muse. Um, the free songs are just massive, saving you a lot of performance over the course of the fight. So when you get to this fourth feat here, this one is going to reduce the cost of your heals, but it's also going to make them weaker. Um, Desperate Finale is great. When you fall below 200 performance, you instantly restore 600 performance. Now this has a, what is that, a 5-minute cooldown, 6-minute cooldown, something like that. However, when you die in combat and either scroll or get revived, this will have its cooldown reset. So something that me and my buddies joke about is a tactical death to get your resource back. That 600 performance is a lot. It's going to allow you to play Sheltering 2 3 times. Um, Basically, every time you die, if you were completely dry on resources, you'll be able to play Rejuvenating Carol, Blaze Flamenco, and Sheltering Etude as soon as you get up, which is big for your Storyteller boon. It also allows you to reapply Rejuvenating Carol and Blaze Flamenco. Because if you die, these songs get deactivated and people don't have the heal over time on them anymore. They don't have the 2% damage buff from this and, the movement speed and all that. And they'll still have their Sheltering Etude because that's something that goes on them. That's not something that goes on you. But you will lose your Sheltering Etude, so it's worth playing it to reactivate it. That also ties in with the Storyteller feat. This is the big one. This one's not going to affect you, but if you're in a trial, this will affect any other healers that are in the trial, or even if you're in a skirmish and there's another healer in there, you will be buffing that healer's outgoing healing. This is going to give the DPS 15% damage increase. This is also going to give the tank 15% reduced damage taken. Now, these Storyteller boons, go play a song and you see hold on. I think it's not going to show up because I'm not in a group, maybe. Oh, yeah, right, because it's not going to show on me. Sorry about that. It's going to show on the other players. I did do some testing with it. There is some funny interactions with it. Um, because it says whenever you play a song that is not in a quick play slot. So I did find that if you had Blaze Flamenco in a quick play slot, on the Healer Bard you're allowed to slot 2 songs. It wouldn't matter if you played Blaze Flamenco from the quick play slot, which is just pressing either right trigger or left trigger when you have your guitar out, or if you played Blaze Flamenco by doing the button combination. Either way that you do that will not allow the storyteller boon to either apply to the person or reapply the time. Sheltering Etude will allow you to play the song by inputting the keys, even if it's on your quick play slot. I have it on a quick play slot because it's just a good, quick, panic button to, heal people. So that one's safe to put in a quick play slot and still play the song by inputting the combination and allowing that storyteller feat to activate and give the DPS their damage increase and give the tank their damage reduction. Um, don't count on, when you're going to cleanse, when you play Warding Carol to cleanse people, that's not going to give you a storyteller boon, storyteller feat. Um, Everything else will, as long as you don't have Blaze Flamenco in a quick play slot. I didn't test Rejuvenating Carol or Defender's Minuet in the quick play slot. That's just because I never put those in the quick play slot. Um, I wanted to see if Blaze Flamenco worked while it was in a quick play slot, just so that when I wanted to reapply Blaze Flamenco and I wasn't concerned with reapplying the storyteller feat, I wanted to see if it was possible to have it in a quick play slot. Turned out it wasn't, because when you played the actual keys for Blaze Flamenco, it wouldn't apply the storyteller feat. So just stay away from pinning Blaze Flamenco. This should be an easy song for you to memorize. It's just down, up, down, down, up, down. You could literally panic and just start pressing down, up, down, up, down, up. And then at some point after you press up, just press down, down, up, down, and you'll play the song. So if you ever try to play it and you fumble up and you're having a hard time, just remember that you can just, after pressing up, press down, down, up, down, and you'll get the song off quickly. Another song that's easy to memorize but kind of clunky to play, Defender's Minuet, just because you're pressing 2 buttons in a row. I'm sure this is a lot easier on PC. They probably have scripts and stuff that they can use. As a result, it does play kind of slow, and putting Defender's Minuet in a quick play slot is an option just so that you can get it off quicker. And I'll actually put it in a quick play slot right now just so we can see how much it will actually heal for. So that was 800k, 800k, 1.1 million on a crit, 1.6 million, 1.16 million, 1.2 million on a crit. Want to get another non-crit here just so we can see. Yeah, so it doesn't affect it a whole lot playing it from the quick play slot. You shouldn't be too discouraged. And I do recommend when you're first starting out to probably put Rejuvenating Carol in a quick play slot as well as Sheltering Etude. Once you get them memorized and you get really familiar with pulling the guitar out and playing the songs quick, these two are actually the fastest songs that you can play. Because you can kind of do it Mortal Kombat style where, it rolls off of your thumbs very easily. Rejuvenating Carol is YX right, YX A. And if you want to play it really fast, this is what this looks like. This is on an unmodded controller. You can just essentially roll your thumb across Y to X, press right, and then roll your thumb down from Y to X to A. You will kind of miss it sometimes, but you can see it gets off pretty quick. Now, when you're looking at Sheltering Etude, again, same thing. It can roll off really quick. YX, down, A right. As long as you're kind of rolling your thumbs across it quick, you can play it really fast. Blaze Flamenco, you can play pretty quick because it's just the two different buttons that you're pressing, down, up, down, down, up, down. A lot of times I will play it with, I'll just move my right thumb over to the down arrow, keep my left thumb on the up arrow to play that one quickly. Defender's Minuet, a little bit slow to play. If you're new to the Bard and, you're a little, I just recommend trying to take it kind of one song at a time with getting them memorized and taking advantage of the pinned slots. You get to pin 4 songs, and that's putting the songs down here so that you have the little cheat sheet so you know what buttons to press. And you don't have to pin a song in order to play it. You don't have to have the song pinned there. You can play it from memory and it will still play. Take advantage of your 2 quick play slots on RT and LT, especially when you're first starting out. Defender's Minuet, Sheltering Etude, those are your 2 direct heals. You can put those on your RT and LT just so that if you're having a hard time keeping up when you first start healing in dungeons and you don't want to let people die, you can just put those there so that it's just RB and then RT to heal the group, and then RB and then LT to heal, one person if that's the way you want to do it. Over time, though, it really didn't take me too long. I really liked the Bard from the time I started playing it, though, so it didn't take me too long to start memorizing these songs and getting good at playing them. Now, that's pretty much it as far as powers, feats, and all that goes. Now, on the Bard I was talking about, I don't play it to maximize stats. I think you get a lot more out of the Bard by buffing and debuffing the group, as well as getting yourself resource regeneration. So, as you can see here on the left side of my screen, I'm not using anything that's benefiting my stats in any way. I'm using resource regeneration on the boots and the helm. I'm using increased resources as well as a little bit of Forte to get some extra resource regeneration. And then I'm using the Enchanted Brigand Arte chest to reduce the enemy stats. Now, the thing is about reducing the enemy stats, in some senses, it doesn't do a whole lot, but it does provide a band-aid for people who have issues maxing their stats. And when you are also reducing the enemy's defense, you are also making the DPS do more damage. The other defensive stats are inverses of offensive stats. So when you're reducing the enemy's awareness, you're effectively reducing the amount of combat advantage that a player needs to essentially be capped on their combat advantage. Critical avoidance, obviously that's the inverse to critical strike, and deflect severity deflect is the inverse to accuracy. The more you reduce the enemy's deflect, the less accuracy you need to be capped. Outgoing Healing Shirt, I don't think there's much better. I think there's a new one that I haven't bothered equipping yet. You could go with the Crit Severity Pants from MDS for they're probably a little bit more worth it than just getting the 5% crit strike. Make sure you got the Merilith mask on because you're running the Merilith set. Grace Ring for the debuffing. So now as far as the debuff gear that you're wearing, The chest piece, you got to stay close, but you should be close anyway because you got to be at willing. At the very least, you should be at willing during the artifact call. As long as you're within 10 feet, that's actually kind of generous. 10 feet is about, um, I don't think, does it actually show? Yeah, menacing aura right there. So you can kind of see he's still got the menacing aura. He's still there. He just lost it. So, and he could have just lost it because it's the training room too. A lot of trying to inch in a little bit here so we can get a good idea of what 10 feet looks like. You want to make sure that you keep that 10% or that 10 feet debuff up. So, I mean, you can be outside of melee range, but not by a whole lot. You do want to make sure you stay pretty close. So that chest piece is going to reduce defense awareness and critical avoidance by 5% each. Your grace ring is going to reduce defense and awareness by 3.5%. And then you should also be taking advantage of companion enhancement slot. Personally, I think right now the best one to use is probably slowed reactions. Just because with the release of Mod 30, people are having an issue making their stat caps, and a lot of people are choosing to be low on accuracy. So you reducing the enemy's deflect is essentially making the accuracy cap a little bit lower. You also don't get any gear that reduces deflect. You could run the antiquated drow. I don't think I have any in this character's inventory. From the comes from the abyssal hunts. Yeah, I don't have any on this character. I think there's some on my warlock, but that's only like 1% deflect. Not worth giving up your increased performance, maximum performance, as well as some forte. As far as the artifacts go, I mean, just whatever is going to help your stats. I just have Charm of the Serpent on right now just because I was in a trial. Generally speaking, on the healer, the best one to use is Zealous Blast Scepter. It's kind of been a long-standing thing that the healers run the Blast Scepter in the group. So now, this is the part everybody's going to like, looking at my stats. As you can see, 57% power. This is without any consumables active. 67% crit strike, 84% crit severity. My outgoing healing is 77%. Now, obviously, these are going to get a little bit higher. Outgoing healing is going to get up to a little over 80%, I believe. Crit severity is going to cap out. Crit strike is going to go up to, I think, 73%. My power is going to go up to about, like 75% in a group. A lot of healers are going to laugh and, why are your stats so low? I think it's overkill. If I capped out my healing stats, my sheltering etude is going to start healing people for 400k instead of 350k, and I could really care less about that little 50k. It's rarely going to make a difference. In this game, if people are going to die, they're going to die, and 9 times out of 10, it's out of your control. When we get over here to the enchantments, you're obviously going to want garnets on your defensive slots for the extra defense. It's kind of just the go-to when you're not a tank to increase your defense. Your two options down here for the utility is either Forte or a Jade for outgoing healing. I go with the Forte for the resource regeneration. Movement speed all the way for your bonus slot. Right now, the Divine Aegis is bugged. You're supposed to be giving people very small shields, but for whatever reason, when it procs, I don't know if I can really get it to proc here. The Divine Aegis doesn't work all that well on the Bard. We actually just got it to proc on the Sheltering Etude, um, which is pretty rare. It doesn't proc a whole lot. um, but when it does, you can stack up some pretty big blue bars on people, and it helps out a lot. Supposed to be on Revive Sickness. As far as your campaign boons, obviously you're going to want power, crit strike, crit severity. The hit points help, the defensive stats help, movement speed obviously. You're going to want Forte. You're going to want the outgoing healing here. You don't really need the action point gain. I just haven't changed these in a long time. It's not bad to have because there are some times, like straight single target fights, it is a little bit of a pain to get your daily back. And then the master boons, all you really want is Blessed Advantage and Blessed Resilience. Enhanced application is kind of nice sometimes to have, but I chose to skip it. When we're looking at companions on the back page, now I ended up going over on crit severity a little bit with this mod, so the Dritz probably isn't really needed. Quickling, not really needed if it's expensive. You could just put on the Polar Bear Cub for outgoing healing and defense, I believe it is, or awareness or something like that. Raptor's a must. You need the power. You need to give your group the power as well. You're really looking for the outgoing healing companions. Critical Strike as well helps out a lot on the Bard. I went with the Forte for the companion equipment. I just haven't gotten the last slot yet. So I just leave this big outgoing healing one on. There's a little bit of confliction with the Forte on the Bard because here it tells you that well, where is it? Hold on, maybe it's down here. Somewhere it tells you that there's two different spots where you can look at Forte. I can't remember. But like here, it doesn't say anything about Forte giving you performance regeneration. Somewhere else, I can't seem to find it right now, but somewhere else it tells you that. Oh yeah, right here, the Forte mechanic Paragon provides an increase to performance regen and excels at crit severity and deflex severity. It makes sense because I believe this to be a glitch right here because none of the other healers get power from their Forte. And I don't notice my power increasing or decreasing when I alter my Forte. So I don't think that's right. For ability scores, I went with Wisdom and Charisma. I went with the Charisma just for the Forte. The recharge speed is pretty much pointless. You don't really need to worry about that. Your delayed play isn't really ever going on cooldown. And Flourish, you don't have to worry about the cooldown on that because you get plenty of free uses. Baseline, not worth reducing the cooldown on baseline, a very small amount. So the recharge speed on a healer is completely negligible. Just don't even worry about it. You could go with Dexterity if you like the movement speed. You want a little bit more crit severity. But Wisdom is just kind of your main one for Spectra outgoing healing. Oh, the one thing I forgot to talk about actually was the dailies. So if you're going for a burn, Inspiration is going to increase one DPS's damage dealt by 25% for 12 seconds. A lot of times the DPS aren't going to be standing right by the boss. So in the event of an artifact call, you know, you'd go into the boss fight, you'd play your songs before you go in, and then you would go over by the DPS, activate your inspiration, and then go over by the boss, start to at will, and you want to make sure that every 15 seconds you're playing at least one song so that you keep up your 3 stacks of the storyteller feat. Now, um, you always want to do inspiration before the artifact call because the artifacts and the mounts generally only last 10 seconds while inspiration lasts 12 seconds. That also gives you time to activate inspiration, get over to the boss, drop your artifact, and start stacking up your Merilith stacks and making sure that you have the Grace Ring debuff on the boss, um, and that you're able to play a song when you need to keep the storyteller feat active. And that's pretty much it. Inspiration is great for the burns. It makes the boss's health just melt. Um, Curtain Call is also great because depending on which songs you have active when you play it, it's going to have different effects. And if you have all of your songs active, it will do all of the effects. So when you have Blaze Flamenco active, people are going to get back 10% of their action points. Rejuvenating Carol is going to do a big heal on everybody. Warding Carol, that's your cleanse. That's going to reduce everybody's damage taken by 10% for 10 seconds. And then Sheltering Etude is going to give an 800 magnitude shield for 20 seconds. Um, that 800 magnitude shield is not crazy. It's about what a paladin would do when they're using their group heal to give everybody a shield. It's not a crazy amount. Um, and since it's your daily, you can't continuously have shields up confidently. I just want to get my daily back here so I can show you about how much Curtain Call does. So there's my Rejuvenating Carol, there's Blaze Flamenco, there's Warding Carol, there's Sheltering Etude. And that's about how much shield you get from Curtain Call. It's not much. It's maybe about as much as Sheltering Etude would heal for in the first place, 250, 300k, something like that. But the benefit is, certain places I love spamming Curtain Call because you can get your daily back so quick with Phantasmal Concerto if there's enough enemies to hit. Places like Moon Dancer, there's another healer in there. Sometimes I'll just spam Blaze Flamenco and Curtain Call just to refill people's dailies fast. It's fun. Um, Now, when we're talking about companions, I gotta get out of combat here. On a bard, you want things like, you don't really want, generally speaking, the DPS should be using Black Death Scorpion because it does more damage. Things like Flapjack, Dritz is a really weak companion, so the DPS don't like to wear it as far as damage output. Portobello, Spine Devil, Tutor, Minsk is another one you could run if you don't have access to those. You really just want to use a support companion to buff the group. Try to help them make their stats a little easier. Um, Combat powers for mounts. I am more partial to things like Magnificent Inspiration from the Pegasus as well as the T-Rex. Now, the reason why is because the T-Rex is going to put that debuff on multiple targets, giving multiple targets that 15% increased damage, and the Pegasus is going to buff everybody in your team to do more damage to whatever they're attacking, or in the tank's case, take less damage. When you start looking at stuff like Bat Swarm, it's only going to go on one thing. E-Line is only going to hit, things at the target. That's why I tend to stick with the Pegasus and the T-Rex. When you're looking at equip power, again, I had pack tactics on because I was in a trial. Generally speaking, you would want Mystic Aura here as the healer. The tanks usually run Runic Aura or pack tactics. Um, but that's kind of just something you'll coordinate with your group. As far as the insignia bonuses goes, honestly, there's not really a whole lot that I like for the healer. I run the Gladiator's Guile just to keep up with movement speed, Mender's Covenant for some stats, Lionheart's Preservation, so when you go low on health, you got the heal, Executioner's Covenant just for some more power, crit strike rating, crit severity rating. Um, you could use something like um, Shepherd's Devotion is good. But unfortunately, the healers don't get like a whole lot that really stands out as some really good insignia bonuses. Um, so I know I droned on quite a bit, but that's pretty much the gist of it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll definitely try to get with you guys and help you with any questions you have. But yeah, give the Bard a try. It's a lot of fun. Big benefit to your group. It does very well in strong groups, um, and does help out the weaker groups a little bit, but it definitely shines a lot more when you put it in a strong group. So with that, I will leave you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see in future videos in the comments down below. Thanks, guys.